there's been criticism of the Ladki Behen Yojana, which is very clearly to empower women, having a negative impact on the fiscal. But yet you see real social outcomes, health outcomes, education-related outcomes on account of some money being available to women to spend on. With that backdrop, how would you describe India's political stability, and now with the Mumbai municipal elections also very clearly, what kind of signal is it sending to global investors, particularly given the uncertain environment in South Asia?
I think that your question has many subparts. One is investment in women draining the treasury. I have a different perspective to it. Let's say the Prime Minister talking about building toilets separately for girls at school. A decade ago, the intent was to curb dropouts of young girls. Has he succeeded? Absolutely. He has created that infrastructure and he has curbed dropouts for young girls from schools. Those girls are not of voting age. So there was no political promise or no political goal at the end of the rainbow for the Prime Minister. However, he did it because that was a moral imperative. But let's look at the flip side of it. If I invest something in women's small enterprise, you remember you've had institutional memory from the financial markets in our country, and one of the very rare ones in reportage in the financial world in our country. Women before 2014, there was an outcry about them not receiving enough fiscal support to start small businesses because they did not have fixed capital assets, that they did not have uninterrupted work cycles. And that's when Mudra came in. It was not a gendered fiscal policy. However, it was a policy that worked for women, and 70% of the offtake was done by women. Now when you talk about Ladki Behen and you look at numbers from the industry where rural economy is seen a surge, especially in the FMCG self-care segment, absolutely, where do you think that money is coming from? So even if some people mistakenly credit it as a dole, has it increased purchasing power in our rural economy? It indeed has, and industry has evidenced it.
A quick follow-up on that. In terms of women's participation in the workforce, I ask you this question in the backdrop of the new labor code that is rolling out even as we speak. What have we done right and what more needs to be done?
I think I have consistently said this over a decade, even as a policy maker, that the way we count women's participation still needs to be refined. And I say this because we have established through Prime Minister Modi's leadership that close to 90 million women in self-help groups receive government fiscal support through financial institutions where money is going straight to the self-help groups. NPA is less than 2%. The transactions that one sees in annual volumes is close to $37 billion, which means that these women have showcased that they are very adept at handling that money. They are very disciplined in their engagements with the financial institutions. The question is, do they get counted as those who are contributing financially or economically They don't. They don't. There are many women who are doing small businesses where the capital need is not more than $50,000. Do they get counted? Because they are a part of the informal sector, they do not have enough economic capacity and are not robust enough to even measure up to the GST benchmark. Do they get counted? They actually don't. You have 90% of the agricultural labor, which is female but informal. Do they get counted? They don't. So if you start counting all these verticals, especially in the informal sector, and I say this because there was earlier description that informal sector means you have no pension, you have no health plan, and you have no work days off if you're giving birth to a child. Now look at what Prime Minister Modi has done. He's given you a pension scheme. He's given you an insurance scheme. He's given you Ayushman Bharat. So he's covered all those challenges that people in the informal sector were facing. That being said, now are we counting those women? We are not. So the problem is not that women are not working. The problem is that they're not getting counted completely.
That's a very important point.